Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up with David Kelley earlier on today. He's the CEO at Chakana Copper. They are hunting copper, gold and silver in Peru. Been getting a little bit of bad press recently. We talked to him about what his 20 years of doing business in Peru has taught him about that situation and what to expect. We also look at what they're going to do with the 10 million bucks they raised recently and what the targets are in terms of delivering their maiden resource by the end of this year. If you want our thoughts and opinions on that conversation, topics discussed, David and the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentaries from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. We've got training courses to help you with your diligence process. And we do summaries of all of our interviews just to save you some time because we know you're busy people. And most importantly of all, we've got a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly, safe environment, free from judgment, trolling, and abuse. And if that sounds nice to you, and I hope it does, go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So give us a like, leave your comments below. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. David, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Matthew. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Haven't seen you since October. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been doing really well. It's good to see you again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. I know you're safely at home. Have you managed to get down to South America yet? Since I saw you,
I have not. You know, I just had my first vaccine 2 weeks ago. I go in next week for the second one. As you know, Peru is having a really hard time with COVID right now. But I'll certainly get down there as soon as I can. Okay.
Cool. Good. That'll be nice. Look, I've seen quite a few press releases, a few interesting topics I want to talk to you about. But before I do, give me that 1 minute overview of the business for people new to this story, and I'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, so we're advancing the discovery we made at the Soledad project, or high-grade tourmaline breccia pipes, copper, gold, and silver. We have really spectacular grades in all three metals. It's still very early in the discovery phase of the project. Even though we've drilled 42,000 meters, we have 110 targets on the project, and we probably tested about 20 of those targets in our exploration so far. And from that, we've made 7 discoveries of high-grade breccia pipes in various stages of being drilled out. But at the moment, we've got 2 drill rigs turning. We're fully funded for this resource drilling program that we're doing now that will include some additional target testing with the goal of having the first resource out in the Q4 of this year.
Excellent. Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that summary for us. I want to talk about a few things that are going on in the marketplace, because when I spoke to you sort of mid-October, about 60 cents, today 46 cents, 50% drop. That's not good. What's the reason?
Well, I think, the markets there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets right now. And there's no doubt COVID is weighing heavy on a lot of the stocks in the market, not just mining stocks. There's been surges of COVID in numerous countries. The rollout of the vaccines, hasn't gone as quickly as people had hoped. We're seeing great progress with that in the United States, but outside of that, it's a lot slower, and especially in the third world countries. Peru is being hit really, really hard with COVID right now. But there's other factors. Peru's an election cycle this year, and there's a lot of attention that's being paid to what's happening there. And obviously we're watching that very closely. I'm certainly not happy with our share price, but I'd say compared to our peers in Peru, we're holding steady, and I think that's on the merit of the quality of the discovery we've made in the pending resource.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about the Peru. The COVID bit. Yeah, I guess it's the same for everyone, but the bit that sticks out there is Peru. We've seen a few newsletter writers, a few journalists come down on Peru. Partly because of the 2 leading contenders for the Peruvian elections there. What's your take on it? Is the market right to be worried?
Well, I think it always helps to have a concern. I mean, when you make an investment in a company that's working in a particular jurisdiction, you have to understand and accept the political risks or the sovereign risks that are inherent in that. What Peru is going through now is no different than what they've gone through for many decades before. And I've been in and out of Peru working there for over 20 years. And I've seen this before. It's not uncommon for the left platform to do well in the early election. We've even seen with, in the past, Humala, who had an anti-mining platform, be elected president. And then, we saw very little changes with respect to mining and the importance of mining in the country. It's such a dominant player in the economy of Peru, and especially right now. The three legs on the tripod of Peru's economy is mining, agriculture, and tourism. And agriculture and tourism has not been able to recover from the impact of COVID, whereas the output from the mines in Peru is very strong. They're recovering quickly. They are having a huge impact on the economy. So I think once the reality sits in with whoever sits in the president that mining is such an important underpinning of the economy of Peru, you realize it can't be messed with, and so my view is that it is business as usual in Peru. We're keeping our head down, working hard. Our biggest concern right now is COVID in Peru, not what's happening with the elections. We're focused on keeping our people healthy, our contractors healthy, our communities healthy, and also honoring the commitments we have to those communities, trying to maintain and continue the social programs that were laid out well in advance of COVID coming on. And we're making great strides with that. And I think that's the meaningful contribution we can make during this time. I fully appreciate that newsletter writers need to sell their newsletters. They need to give their subscribers something to read, and it's quite sensational to say it's gloom and doom in Peru right now. I'm not trying to discount the seriousness of the election. Any election is serious. Even in the United States, we've been through that recently. But do I think that mining is going to stop in Peru after the next election is finalized? Absolutely not, and regardless of which candidate it is. So a lot of this is rhetoric. It's trying to get votes. It's trying to sell newsletters, and it's trying to draw attention to something that I don't think historically is supported in the way the elections turn out in Peru.
Well, that's a fairly categoric answer, so I appreciate that. But talk to me about what 20 years in Peru has shown you, because I want to understand where this confidence, this certainty comes from. We've spoken to a few companies in different countries in South America where we've seen, Mexico has been, seen a little setback because of announcements by their prime minister, their president. And also Ecuador recently, the elections did cause some consternation initially, but it seems to be life as normal. So what do you know about the Peruvian election process or the likelihood of normality returning after these elections are won?
Yeah, like I said, it's not uncommon to start with a leftist platform leading in the first election. Traditionally, what we've seen in Peru is that support, it maxes out, and the support for the more pro-business, pro-mining platform continues to increase. There were so many candidates, and that's I think one of the challenges that Peru has when they run their election process. When you start off with 18 candidates and they're all getting 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 12% of the votes, it just completely divides the country on multiple levels and in regards to multiple issues. And there's a consolidation of those different platforms coming together right now. So we've seen that before. I fully expect that we'll continue to see that. And my view is, in the end, the pro-business, the more conservative pro-business, pro-mining platform will win the election. Now, people ask the question, well, what if they don't? Well, in order for Pedro Castillo to come in and really change things, right? Throw out the Constitution, nationalize the mining assets. He's got to have the support of the Congress, and he doesn't have that. So how is somebody going to come in saying they're going to do that and be able to pull it off? Well, they can't. And so, again, I get back to the fact that a lot of this is rhetoric to try to get votes, to try to win votes. Whether or not they would be able to make the changes, that's the real question. Could they, even if they did get elected, could they make the changes that they've made? And I don't see the support. My contacts in Peru say that this person does not have the support to make these kind of changes. And at the end of the day, Peru is the second largest copper producer in the world. It didn't get there overnight. It got there, year after year after year, starting with a good, very solid mining law, and then developing a global industry, bringing in the global players, right? All the major mining companies are in Peru. So there's momentum there in that industry in Peru, and I don't think that's going to change. And while I certainly pay attention to what's happening with the polls and the election results and where we're headed there, for us, it's business as usual. It's keep our people healthy. It's deliver this resource that we've promised to our shareholders, and that's really what our focus is.
Okay, well, okay. I appreciate the comprehensive answer, and you covered off a few questions I had. I was going to ask you, so that's much appreciated. Let's talk about the focus. The focus has got to be this resource in Q4, the end of this year. Yeah. That's what people are looking forward to. You're an exploration company. You're not a developer. You're not a producer. You know where you sit, and you know what you want to do. This maiden resource that's going to come from one discovery, your first discovery, but I've noticed the second one has popped up here. Is that going to delay you or distract you?
Well, no. Actually, we've made 7 discoveries. I mean, the deposits that we're exploring, they're tourmaline breccia pipes. So it's a cluster. It's somewhat analogous to the kimberlite districts, where there's multiple kimberlite pipes, and the diamonds are hosted in the kimberlite pipes. And the more pipes you can bring into the resource, the bigger your resource is, the longer your mine life's going to be, and that type of thing. And so, we have 23 confirmed breccia pipes sticking out of the ground. These are really obvious things. We've also found blind breccia pipes in our drilling. We've found 2 of those now.
What does that mean?
So if there's 2, I'm sorry?
What does that mean? Blind.
Well, that means a breccia pipe that's not obvious. It's sitting beneath the ground, and so sometimes there might be a real subtle signature that at surface that you can say, yeah, we think that in this location, if we drill beneath the ground here, we'll find a breccia pipe that's not cropping out at surface. I think we've been through the discussion about these particular types of breccia pipes. They did not erupt at surface when they formed. They're not volcanic features. These are breccia pipes that formed in an environment where there was still probably 2 or 4 kilometers of rock above the breccia pipe. So right after these breccia pipes formed, you would have no idea there was anything there. As the uplift and erosion has happened, we've exposed the tops of some of these breccia pipes, and those are the really obvious ones. Those are the 23 that you can stand on, you can sample, and we've drilled a number of those. And from that drilling we've done, we've discovered 7, strongly mineralized, high-grade tourmaline breccia pipes, okay? And those will be part of the initial resource. Well, the upside potential is, how deep do these breccia pipes go? They're all open at depth. We've never seen the bottom of a breccia pipe yet. And then how many more breccia pipes can we bring to the story? We've got 110 targets on the property. We've tested about 20 of those targets. And from that, we've got these 7 discoveries. If we can maintain that discovery rate, that frequency of discovery through testing additional targets, the upside potential is enormous on this project. And that's the story I've been trying to convey to our investors, is we don't know how big this project's going to be. We're gonna put out a resource at the end of this year, and it's going to be a demonstration of concept, 6 or 7 breccia pipes down to about 300 meters. And it's going to be, the story and the narrative is going to be, this is what you can get out of 6 or 7 of these breccia pipes. Well, how many are there? Are there 20? Are there 40? Are there 60? There are examples of this exact same deposit type with over 400 breccia pipes in the breccia pipe cluster. So they can be quite enormous. So the significance of the work that we've done since August is we've made 3 new discoveries, 2 of them very high grade, Huancarama and Paloma West. We're doing infill drilling programs on those now to get the drill density to the point that they can be included in the resource estimate, and that will be included with the other discoveries that we had previously made.
Okay, so I understand that. So the resource at the end of the main resource at the end of this year is to just demonstrate the quality and extent and scale of what it is that you think you've got there, but you're not checking out at that point. You will continue to explore and build this out. Okay, understood. You raised some money in January, $10 million. I know Goldfields followed their money.
Yeah.
What are those? What are you having conversations with them? And if so, what's that conversation about? Because obviously they're showing you intent and interest. Are they directing you in any way, or are you just doing it the way you want to do it?
No, we have an advisory panel. We meet monthly with them, and, they bring tremendous resources to the table. I might indicate that, we'd really like to get some input from your chief geophysicist, and they say, we'll make him available. We'd like to get your input from your resource geology team, and they're available. So that's a great thing for a junior company to have access to, is that kind of technical depth, because you generally don't have that in the junior sector unless you go out and hire lots of consultants, and we do that. We've got some great consultants, and there's lots of good people out there, but it's great to have access to some of these kind of hidden superstars that sit inside these big majored mining companies that can bring lots of great ideas and resource to the table. But so we meet with them regularly. At the end of the day, the technical committee of Chakana is what makes the final decisions on where we drill, how much money we allocate to drilling versus geophysics and that type of thing. We certainly have, we're aware of what Goldfields wants to see. And so far it's been very, very compatible. What they want us to do and what we want to do has been very compatible. And that's why Goldfields was such a great fit as a strategic investor for us, because they love what we're doing with these high-grade tourmaline breccia pipes. They're not fazed at all by underground mining. That's how they built their company from the beginning. But they also see the potential that, some of these breccia pipes could have starter pits. They're very competent open pit miners. They already operate, the Cerro Corona mine in Peru. So that was a great fit. Some of the big majors that came at us early on, wanted to know if the whole thing could just be open pitted. They're not focused on underground mining. That's not their expertise. And in that regard, they weren't a very good fit. So we think that working with Goldfields has been really good for us and helping us advance the project. So getting their endorsement in the last financing, having them come in, we had 2 tranches. They were there for both tranches, and in the end we raised $9 million. Our target was 10, and we ended up with 9. But we were thrilled to get that and have that endorsement. And also at the same time, we brought in a number of other new institutional investors into the story. Okay,
so it's great having them here now. Okay, that gives you access to skill sets that you didn't have, and of course they're following their money. But isn't it going to limit you further down the line when you want to start talking to other strategic investors, or at least look at what your options are?
Well, people say that. I mean, I think it's important to point out they don't have a future right on the asset. There's no first right of refusal or anything. And of course, all the majors try to do that, right? They come in and they say, yeah, we want to invest, but we would like to have a first right of refusal. And, we haven't done that, so that's a very clear statement right there. Could somebody else come in? Absolutely. Now, then the question becomes, would somebody else come in? Well, look at SolGold. SolGold has BHP and has Newcrest. There's lots of examples out there where for really, really good projects, other people come along. I fully appreciate that, another mining company might look at it and go, well, they may not have a future right on the asset, but, they do own 20%. And, how are we going to position ourselves in there. So, there is that. And, you could make the argument that that has held our stock price back a bit. I don't know if that's the case or not. I think our stock price has been more closely tied to what's happening with copper. Right now we're at 430 copper, right? I mean, that's a phenomenal share price, or commodity price. And I in that regard, I am disappointed that our share price isn't higher on the back of that commodity price. But we've talked about the other things, the COVID issue, the elections, and that type of thing. So I think we've done well compared to our peers in Peru. But obviously we've got some hard work to go. Our share price should be higher.
Yeah, it should, but I get the Peruvian factor. I understand that, and if you've done well compared to your peers, that's great news. But the copper price is as high as it's been for a long time. Maybe you should be doing better than you are. And copper companies outside of Peru seem to be doing quite well.
Yeah, I agree. Yesterday we announced the addition of Doug Silver to the board of Chakana. He's now the chairman. Doug Kerwin has stepped down. As you know, Doug is a legendary discoverer, very successful career in mineral exploration, and Doug brought huge value to our initial exploration strategy that continues today. But at the same time, we needed somebody on the board that has a very, very strong market corporate finance presence, and Doug Silver brings that. He's had a very successful career himself. He was inducted into the U.S. National Mining Hall of Fame in 2018. Very strong on the royalty side of the business, which again, that's in play for us with our Soledad project. And we're an M&A story, and having somebody like Doug with his depth of experience with M&A, with valuations, with corporate finance, we think this is a great addition for the company. And, our focus is going to be on maximizing the value of the asset that we have in return for our shareholders. And the copper price above $4 is great to have, and we have high grade to go with it, and we have gold and silver to go with it. So it's a great fundamental story. We've just got to execute and make sure we get the resource out on time, and continue to explore and test these targets and grow that resource.
Okay, so what does the money that you raised recently allow you to do? How much more time does that give you? What do you need to achieve in that time frame? Apart from the Maiden resource, what else is it going to do for you?
Well, that's the main thing. It's a lot of drilling. We had a 15,000 meter drill program that we started last year. With the success of the discoveries we've made at Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancrama, we wanted those to be included in the maiden resource. So, we raised $9 million, and we committed to a 26,000 meter drill program this year. And, so you take we had drilled about 6,000 of the 15 from last year. Okay. January 1st, we approved a 26,000 meter drill program for fiscal year 2021. So it's really 26 plus the 6 we had already completed. So from August of last year until we stopped drilling this year, there will be 32,000 meters of new drilling completed. We're operating with 2 drill rigs now, 24/7 on the project. And in addition to the infill drilling that will be part of the maiden resource, we're also testing a number of other very high priority targets. Again, with the idea that you show more discoveries that will need more infill drilling, resource gets bigger, economic impact of a bigger resource, will be demonstrated with the PEA. And, that's the path that we're headed down. And we're fully funded to get through that initial resource estimate, additional studies to support that. We're doing lots of other things with the project in terms of permitting, getting access to ground on the south side that we haven't had a chance to drill yet, the community programs, surface rights agreements and that type of thing. So it's a very dynamic program.
So if you're looking around the market at the moment at all of these other copper companies, doing really, really well, and they're putting out resource statements themselves, you must have an idea in your head. what sort of numbers or what the resource is going to need to look like to impress the market? Because at that point, you're going to need to go and get some more capital to go through the next phase, to impress people with what you've got here, show them what you've been doing all this time. So what do you think you need to be coming to the market with?
Well, the goal that we've always had was 10 million tons of 2% copper equivalent. And that was a goal that was set early on. Part of that was in discussion with Macquarie Bank, which came in and did a very thorough due diligence evaluation of the project, and then became an institutional investor in two of the financings that we had done. And their view is that, look, if you come out in the location we have is phenomenal. It's right in the middle of an active mining district. It's in the Ancash province. The infrastructure is second to none. There's grid power that's nearby. There's a public road access. There's already operating mines in the district. So that we've got that going for us in terms of how soon could this asset be in production versus a brand new discovery in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, some of these discoveries that junior companies tout, they're impressive. I mean, geologically and technically, they're very impressive, but they're in the middle of nowhere. And you really have to ask yourself as an investor, is this ever going to become a mine in my lifetime? And, so that's a big plus that we have is our location. The second big plus we have is the grade. Okay. We've got high grade. And the great thing about grade is you're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're not having to rely on a super cycle or the proliferation of electric vehicles to make your project look good, because it's on the lower end of the grade range, right? So grade is a great thing. There's also another important part about grade. A high grade deposit has a much smaller footprint in terms of the ground disturbance. How much ground do you have to dig up to get the metal out of the ground? Well, if you've got 1 billion tons of 0.3% copper, you've got a lot of ground to move, right? And it happens all over the world. That's where the majority of our copper supply in the world comes from, these gigantic low-grade deposits. And they absolutely kill it in terms of profit because of the scale that they operate. But, at the same time, they have a much higher ESG impact, right? There's a much bigger social impact. There's a bigger environmental impact. And if that's all managed properly, there's not a problem. But, having a smaller, higher grade, smaller footprint project allows you to survive the metal cycles. It allows you to develop the mine with the lower capital input. We're not talking about multiple billions of dollars to build a gigantic low-grade porphyry copper deposit. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, probably in the low hundreds of millions of dollars, to bring on a high-grade operation that's going to have a smaller environmental footprint. It's going to have a smaller social footprint. And those are all really, really good things. So, but to get back to your original question, Matthew, 10 million tons at 2% copper equivalent. So where did we come up with that? And that was a number that that Macquarie had suggested, because they felt that if you have 10 million tons of 2% copper equivalent in our setting, in the setting that we're in, that's going to become a project, which means it's going to become a mine. And so we said, that sounds really reasonable to us, 10 million tons at 2%. Well, when you look at all the drilling we've done at Breccia Pipe 1, we've had 52 drill holes in that. We found a blind Breccia pipe while we were drilling the known Breccia pipe. So it's actually two Breccia pipes sitting right side by side. One's completely blind, 120 meters below surface, but very high grade. And, if you put all of the mineralized intercepts from those 52 drill holes, we come out right at about, it's 2.9% copper equivalent, to just give you a feel for our target's 2% copper equivalent. Breccia Pipe 1's at 2.9. Well, we also have some that are lower grade than that. So, 2% seemed like a reasonable balance between some of the really spectacular higher grade pipes we have and some of the lower grade pipes. But since that time, we've discovered Paloma West, which has some of the highest grades we've ever seen on the project. And now, with Juan Carama and some of the results we've drilled there, again, we're on the higher end of that grade range. So I don't know where the resource estimate will come in. If it's 8 million tons at 2.5% copper equivalent, that's a great result. If it's 11 million tons at 2% copper equivalent, I think that's a great result. I really don't know where it's going to come in. It depends on how this infill drilling program that we're executing now, pans out. But it's going really well, and I'm very pleased with the results.
It'd be really cool if you could actually show some of the information. You quote the gold equivalent number everywhere, but your target is a 2% copper equivalent. It'd be really cool if you could help us by showing both. That might be interesting. I want to see if you're on target.
I usually do show both, but there is a rule that if you show both, then both metals have to have at least 30% of the value of that copper equivalent, right? So, and a great example is this, oxidation dissolves sulfides in the near surface. At Soledad, we get about 30 meters of oxidation, meaning the sulfides are destroyed. Copper is a mobile element in an oxidizing environment, so it moves down. And it's great because it creates supergene enrichment at the water table beneath that, where it's more reduced. But gold and silver do not move very much, okay, in this environment. So you hang up the gold and silver in the top part of the oxide zone. You move the copper down, and so if you get an intercept of high grade gold and silver, it's going to have virtually no copper. And so it doesn't make any sense to quote a copper equivalent in that situation, because all the value is sitting in the gold and silver. And vice versa, if you have a really, really strong copper mineralized zone with very low gold, it's not really fair to quote the gold equivalent on something like that, because the gold value might only be 10%. So
got it. Understood. Thanks for taking me to school, David. I like that. No, genuinely do. I like that.
Let me say too, though, that the investors are always better off when they can understand the importance of the grade of the individual metals. And I know the equivalent grades make it more convenient for the investors and that type of thing. I think it gets widely abused in the industry. It depends on what metal prices you use, and those are always changing. So I always think we're better off talking about what's the copper grade, what's the gold grade, and what's the silver grade. And I realize it means that you've got to understand what's important in each of those. But I'd much rather talk to people about that than to go down the path of the equivalent.
I agree.
We do it. It's popular to do it, so that's why we've done it. But
I agree with you. I think it needs to be separated. Not all of it's recoverable, not all of it's economic as byproduct.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, well, look, I appreciate your time today. Nice update since we saw you last. You've been busy at it. Can we expect to see a lot more drill results between now and October? That seems very far away.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been putting out results on a pretty regular basis. A lot of the infill drilling is rapid holes, and oftentimes they end up being shorter holes, and you get clumps of large batches of samples going into the lab. The labs have slowed down, and I've been saying for a long time that there's been not a huge impact on the lab turnaround time for us. We were very fortunate that our turnaround time was averaging 15 days last year. There has been a slowdown more recently, and it has to do with the fact that the medical community in Peru is reaching out to laboratories to fill oxygen tanks. A lot of the laboratories use bottled oxygen, bottled nitrogen in their operations, and so they were obvious outlets for them to go to. And we have seen a turnaround time. We're, due to the nature of how we're drilling now, we're going to put out results in larger batches of data, because there's lots to come, right? There's 26,000 meters this year that's happening right now. So we will be steady. There will be lots of results coming out. More results in a single news release will probably become the standard, but we're committed to getting that news out as soon as we can. And we're really excited about this year, in spite of all the challenges that we have. It's a testament to our team in Peru to be able continue to advance the project in these difficult times.
Good on you, David. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate it.